right, well, we will go ahead and get started just so we have plenty of time to address any questions that you guys may have and be respectful of your time as well. So thank you for joining us for today's webinar with the Pixo team, and happy National Small Business Week to all of us who have joined us as well. Just a few quick things before we get started. You are welcome to ask questions. We just ask that you submit those via the chat box, and then the Pixo team will be monitoring that as well as myself, and then we can also cover any ones that we need to at the end as well. You'll also receive a follow-up email later today. It will include a recording to today's session, so if there's something you missed or you want to go back and listen to again, you will have the opportunity to do that. So don't feel like you have to rush and jot something down. You will have the chance to re-listen if needed. In that follow-up email, I'm also going to include some links to additional sessions that we have coming up with both Pixo and other partners in the community. So please feel free to join us for any of those sessions. They're always offered at no cost and open to everyone. So at this time, I'll hand it over to Danielle and we can get started.
Thank you, Jordan. It is always an honor to collaborate on these with you all and to present today. I am Danielle Hendricks. I am the Director of Business Development for Pixo. And if you aren't already familiar with Pixo, we are a software consultancy in Urbana, and we create websites, software, and applications that help address unique challenges and also think about putting people first in front of those technology tools. I'm going to have Jenna from the Pixo team introduce herself next.
Thanks, Danielle. Hi, everyone. I'm Jenna. I'm also on the Biz Dev team, as Danielle said. I'm going to reiterate a bit of what Jordan said and then also open our door directly for all of you. So as she mentioned, Jordan, we are recording today, and Jordan's going to share in an email Amanda's presentation. Also going to send along the slides if you want to just have those for your reference in the future. We are really excited if people ask questions, so please do that in the chat. I'm going to keep an eye on that and make sure that we get to them. I know Jordan's going to be watching too. And right up top here, I'm going to drop a link to our LinkedIn page, which is where you can really follow along with Pixo and everything we have going on. And then also our direct emails if you want to get in touch with us. And I think that's all the housekeeping, right, Danielle?
That is. Thank you, Jenna.
Okay. Cool.
And last but not least, our person of the hour, we have Amanda Langworthy to present on SEO essentials for content managers. Take it away, Amanda.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, hello, welcome. I'm Amanda Langworthy, and I'm a lead content strategist at Pixo. And I'm just going to share a few things about myself before we get started. I'm pretty new to the area. Actually, I keep saying this, and I don't know when to stop saying this, but I've been here for a little over a year. My first 2 years at Pixo, I worked remotely from Austin, Texas, and I am now presenting from Pixo headquarters in Urbana, Illinois. So some things that give me energy are dogs and a good movie. Believe it or not, there will be a lot of dog content in my slides today. So that's how much I love them. And something that drains me is bad user experience. And I think that drains everyone, but the only thing worse than struggling with an app or a website is knowing how to improve it while you're struggling with it. But that's like why I enjoy doing educational things like this webinar, because I guess I want to share that burden with you. Just kidding. I just believe in knowledge sharing rather than gatekeeping, so that maybe you'll go out and improve your websites or apps, or you'll share this info with people who will do that, and the world will be a better place. All right, so today I'm going to talk to you about SEO, and the impetus for doing this presentation is that over the past few years, more and more of Pixo's clients have been expressing interest in SEO. And usually they want to jump into the deep end with strategies that are a bit out of reach to them, out of reach either due to lacking budget for SEO tools or lacking certain skill sets or capacity. I'm going to talk today about foundational things you can do with a small team, just focusing on content. So this presentation will not include any tricks or algorithm shortcuts. And I'm also not going to talk too much about third-party tools. This is not to say there are not great tools out there to help you automate some of this work. And some of these tools even have like free versions with reduced capabilities or sort of like use limitations, where you can maybe use the tool for a certain amount of days for free. But even using those is kind of a next step that you can use once you have your foundations covered. And these tools are not a replacement for this foundational work that I want to focus on today. So let's just start from the very top. I assume all of you have some knowledge of what SEO is, but just in case, SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization. And it simply refers to the work that goes into increasing website visitors by making the website more findable in search engines. And I'm going to be mainly referencing Google today, but obviously there are other search engines. And content strategy is a fairly new discipline. So to explain it, I often quote Christina Halverson. She's one of the first people to popularize the discipline. And she says that content strategy is all about getting the right content to the right people at the right time. And to be a content strategist is to be not only focused on the front end public facing content, but the process of getting that content online and maintaining it over time. So that's kind of my role in a nutshell. And it informs how I think about SEO. In big organizations, especially the corporate world, there are often SEO specific roles where all that person thinks about is optimizing websites for search. And that usually includes a lot of fancy tools and goes way beyond just content optimization. But that content piece is foundational and crucial to any SEO strategy. And I'm going to keep going. So today's agenda, I want to cover 4 ways to optimize content for search. The first is to get to know your users and develop a content strategy that helps them. The second is to use keywords in key places. The third is to develop a linking strategy. And the fourth is to invest in dynamic content. This first section is going to take up a bulk of my time today, but it's the most important. You need to get to know your users and develop a content strategy that helps them. And the great thing about all these tips that I'm going to discuss here in this section is that they are great for SEO, but investing time here is also just going to be massively helpful in making sure you have a good and useful website with a clear vision. The biggest contributing factor for ranking high on a Google search results page is that your pages are useful to real people. If people don't spend time on your site, so if they click on your page and immediately leave, or if they don't click on it at all because it doesn't appear to be relevant to them, then Google will never prioritize your website. So you need to make sure you understand your user's search intent. At Pixo, before we jump into a design or development project, we do what we call a discovery phase. And actually more and more, we're doing discovery phases as standalone projects. And the discovery phase is a customized bundle of research tasks aimed at making sure we understand an organization and their users. We want to find out what their needs and their struggles are and how they interact with the organization. And doing this research ensures we build a website or design a product that is targeting real needs. And it's just a smart way to work, so we don't waste money or time. But it just so happens that many of these tasks draw out really valuable SEO insights. And you can think of this discovery phase kind of like a restaurant menu. You can mix and match tasks and you can customize your portions. So it's an Italian restaurant menu, like a family style Italian restaurant. What you choose to do should be informed by your resources and capacity. One of the most useful research tasks, in my opinion, is interviews with internal stakeholders and real users or audience groups. During interviews, we pay attention to terminology and language, and we also pay attention to any sort of statements about goals or priorities. And you can sometimes get similar information, albeit a little more surface level, from surveys or even call logs. Testing the app or the website with real users is also extremely useful. While you're testing, you can glean insights into gaps that you might have content-wise. Like if you're not meeting users' expectations with content, you'll learn that there. You might also learn about terminology expectations here as well. Competitive analysis is also useful. Doing one of these can highlight more of those gaps that you might have, and it also provides insight to how others in your industry are talking about your services. Some other sources that can be lower lift if you don't have very much resources or capacity might be chat logs, call logs, contact form submissions. So when your audience or users submit a help request, for example, what are they requesting and what words are they using to make that request? If they're done over the phone, you can even ask your receptionist to make a spreadsheet and track those requests so that you can start to highlight patterns. Once you've completed some research, you should have some ideas for search queries. And a search query is simply the string of text that a user types into Google or any other search engine to try to find something. One thing you need to be aware of as you start digging into your queries is there are often multiple meanings or interpretations. Here's an example of a phrase that could have multiple meanings. And I saw this example, I can't take credit for coming up with this example. I saw it a long time ago somewhere, and I wish I could find the source, but it's been a while. So catch game is a search query. First of all, catch itself has many synonyms and connotations. So capture, grab, snag, there's probably more, but all of those synonyms have like a different connotation, right? And then the phrase catch game could be interpreted in at least two distinct ways that I can think of. First, it could be the game of catch, you know, the simple game of throwing a ball back and forth. And second, it could be interpreted as catching a game, like a sporting event in person or even on TV. Another thing that can alter a search query significantly is changing suffixes and prefixes and rearranging phrasing. So we're getting started with the dog content here. All four of these queries have similar roots, but different search intent. You want to narrow down to queries that are relevant to your website specifically. So if your website is for a dog rescue, you probably want to avoid some of these queries. Dog dreams, dog dreaming. These queries will probably turn up some really cute videos, but they aren't likely to be a good query to focus on in our use case, right? If we're creating a website for a dog rescue. But dream dog is more relevant, right? Someone might be looking for their dream dog at a dog rescue. Here's another example of a funny way that simply pluralizing a search query can change the results drastically. We have Pitbull, who is a musical artist, and pit bulls, which are a dog breed. Doing this work of pulling queries apart ensures that you are focusing on the right ones. And you might even find some new ones that you haven't thought of. Now you're going to plug all your best queries into Google. For our example query, I'm going to use dog rescues Central Illinois. So first, take note of any competitors that you see. Hopefully some of them you already included in your competitive analysis. You'll want to start logging search intents. And to do this, you need to read between the lines. Just like how in an interview or on a survey, those insights aren't going to scream at you, hey, this is my search intent. These Google search results aren't going to spell it out for you either. You need to look at each result and determine what a person might click on them for. So here I just started putting sticky notes, yellow sticky notes for each intent that I saw. And I immediately am seeing some patterns. So adopt a puppy, support an organization, support a no-kill organization. So there's these patterns emerging. You should invest quite a bit of time here trying all your major queries. I recommend at this point starting a spreadsheet to keep track of these intents and the patterns that you see. You may also start pulling keywords and key phrases that pop out at you. These are going to come up later, and this could all be in one spreadsheet or they can be separate. I'm totally agnostic on how you track these things. Whatever works for you is the thing that works. After you've looked at search results for all of your best queries, you probably have a list of search intents. And now you're going to take that list of intents and start to plug them into intent stages. Intent stages are talked about in much of the SEO literature out there. One book I recommend looking into, and I think Jenna can drop in the chat the link to this. If you want to know more, it's called SEO is for Everyone by Rebecca Baggs and Chris Korak. They mention some other intent stages that I'm not going to talk about today. And I'll also say these stages are referred to differently sometimes depending on where you're reading about them. For example, some literature refers to the do stage as the transactional stage. But today I'm going to focus on just these four, and we're going to call them the know stage, the compare stage, the do stage, and the visit stage. And intent stages are a way of organizing your intents into categories, and that can be helpful just to try to get a sense of what your users are trying to accomplish. So you can serve them something they actually need. It'll also help you see some potential gaps in your content and get organized as you formulate a plan for writing new content and filling those gaps. The know intent is broad, and the user is just dipping their toe into a topic. So with the search query dog training, the results that have language about general dog training info fall into this intent stage. So what is dog training basics, can I do it myself, how to train a dog? These are all indicating an intent to know a little more. The compare intent indicates that user wants to compare results or options. For that same dog training query, the intents I see are find affordable dog training. So someone might click if they are comparing prices. I also see positive reinforcement versus alpha dog methods. So someone might click on that link if they're comparing philosophies. And these are all indicating an intent to compare options. The do intent is action oriented. Maybe they've done some comparing and now they're ready for the next step. Whether that's to sign up for something, buy something, contact somebody. So for dog training, I see class registration at the dog training club. I also see program pages for the Academy of Pet Careers. These are all kind of the end of the funnel, right? A person clicking on these is looking to make a transaction or a commitment of some sort. The visit intent is all about taking local action. So often on a search results page, you can see these intents in the Google Maps section. For dog training, there are several good options here in town. Once you have plugged all your best search queries into Google and highlighted all the intents that you see, segment these intents and map them to pages on your site. This is also where you want to ask yourself if there are any holes. Do you need to create new pages? This is sort of the ultimate output of the search intent research. So you essentially have a roadmap for content creation. And when it comes to some of the things that I was saying for our example, a lot of no intents, understanding the adoption process, learning about dog training, shelter policies. These are all no intents. And a lot of no intents go really well on a homepage or an about us section. For compare intents, often these are really good blog post topics. So you could write a blog post about selecting a trainer. And for do intents, I saw a lot of become a foster, sign up to volunteer, hire a trainer, adopt a dog. So there's a lot of opportunity here for pages to satisfy these needs, but an adoption event page, I think, is an example of satisfying that due intent. And for visit, I saw find pit bull rescues in Illinois, find nearest dog shelter. So a page about rescue group or shelter affiliates would really support this intent. Okay, so we've covered getting to know your users and very intentionally crafting content to target their real needs. And now I'm going to move on to a second way to improve your content for SEO, which is keywords, specifically using keywords in key places. And the good news is that by doing all that research outlined in the previous section, you'll have also set yourself up to succeed with keywords. You're going to want to refer back to your interview transcripts, your survey submissions, any collateral that you got from customer service reps or the folks that answer the phones and emails. Ideally, you were logging these keywords in real time while you were doing that in your spreadsheet. But the point is you should already have access to a bunch of keywords. And also, while you were digging into your search intent, that was another opportunity for logging keywords that popped out at you as well, specifically ones that fit naturally with what your website offers. So don't try to force keyword fit. This is a theme that is going to come up a bunch throughout the rest of this presentation. Don't force it. Forcing keywords is called keyword stuffing. And that's when a website tries to rank for search intents that it really can't support, and it backfires most of the time. Also, another tip when you're looking at keywords, the more narrow, the better. So dog training, that phrase alone is probably going to be a very difficult search term to be competitive at first. But it's the keywords around that term that can potentially be really useful to you. And you can see here that I highlighted some keywords that I would log in my spreadsheet. So how to, obedience, certified dog behavior consultant, training philosophy, best age, 7 basics. So these are the things that I would start taking note of if I was making a spreadsheet for my keywords. And a quick note about Google Search Console. So this is a great tool to add to your keyword research. It's free and pretty easy to set up. Google has really good documentation of how to set it up if you are interested. I'm not a very technical person, and I found the instructions very helpful, which I think is pretty rare to say. There are several uses for this tool, but in the interest of keeping this simple today, I'm going to only talk about one, and that's using it as another source for keyword research. All the other research we've talked about up to this point has been about uncovering and clarifying how you want to be found in Google search. This tool lets you look at how you're already being found. In Google Search Console, you can look at search queries in which your site or page is populating. These are documented with impressions. And then you can also see the clicks. So how often is your site showing up in search results for this query? And then how often does that result in a click on your website? And you can set it up to look at other things too, like page rank. So how high your page appears in Google search results is also very interesting. But all of this can help you because maybe there are some keywords you're already populating for, and leaning into those can be a smaller leap than trying to populate for something brand new. Just a quick note also about your spreadsheet. It can be formatted in whichever way works for you. It can start out simple like this and get much more complex. For example, you may want to eventually track where you're incorporating your keywords on your website. And this is one of those places where a fancy tool could help you automate, but a spreadsheet is just fine as well. For now, I am organizing by theme and sub-theme. I'm also keeping track of intent and, of course, the keywords themselves. And I think organizing by themes and intents is a good starting point to make sure you're covering your bases. You know where you need coverage on your website because of all the research you did earlier. But you want to make sure you're filling those holes with thoughtful keywords. So you're not just mindlessly gathering keywords with no plans for where they should go. You're thinking holistically. Now that you have figured out where you have gaps in content and generated a list of keywords to help fill those gaps, let's talk about how to incorporate them strategically. I want to focus on 4 methods for incorporating keywords thoughtfully and intentionally. I will say that you can certainly incorporate keywords elsewhere as well, but these are just like 4 good places to start. And before I jump into these, I want to say again, keywords should not be something that you add at the expense of clarity or user experience. Again, this is an example of keyword stuffing, and it actually makes for really unnatural and unhelpful content, which backfires. Because first and foremost, a user-friendly website is what Google wants to see. So one place you can focus on adding keywords is headers. These act like chapter titles in a book. And FYI, the title of your page is also a header. Your title is usually in each one, at least it should be. And they make your page easier to scan and provide a more user-friendly experience than big blocks of text. So being more user-friendly means a higher likelihood that your users will stay on your page for a while, which the algorithm really likes. Beyond that, Google also actually looks specifically at headers to parse what your site is about. So you want these headers to be meaningful first and foremost, but because Google looks at them, they are ripe with opportunity for keyword placement. Here to the right, I have an example of a web page for an imaginary dog rescue with lots of thoughtful headers. The second way to incorporate your keywords is in the meta descriptions. Sometimes meta descriptions are also referred to as SEO descriptions. And if we don't write a custom meta description for our page, Google will simply pull text from the page for this description that you see in the search results. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Often it gets cut off in weird spots. And you have the opportunity to customize this. So remember when we were looking at Google Search Console and you could see both impressions and clicks. If you see that there is a really big difference in these numbers, like a super high impression number and a very low click number, then you might want to look at your meta description. Because what might be happening is your site populates because it's relevant for that query, but users are looking at your page description and deciding your site isn't going to help them. Some content management systems have plugins that allow you to do this quite easily. All the CMSs that Pixo makes has a tool right in the editor to add a meta description and a meta title, actually. And it provides some guidance on length, which is super helpful because there is a sweet spot you want to hit lengthwise. Ideally, your meta description is between 50 and 155 characters. If it's too short, Google doesn't prioritize it, and if it's too long, it will be cut off. If you don't have this plugin, you can add a meta description in the website code. Either way, these descriptions are directly related to your page rank, and a good one also increases the likelihood that someone will click on your website and find what they need. On the right, we have 2 examples. The top one, I found a description that probably hasn't been customized because it gets cut off in the middle of a parentheses. So it's just an unfinished thought. Below that, we have a good example, and no surprise that it's from PetSmart. They have the resources to always address these details, right? They have a clear and complete meta description that seems to use some relevant keywords. I see accredited, reinforce, good behavior, puppy, beginner, intermediate. So these are they are really getting the most out of that sentence, while also being very clear about what this page is going to be about. A third way to incorporate keywords is image alt text. I will say it is a struggle often to get people to write alt text at all. So this might be one of the more challenging keyword placement methods. Google prioritizes websites that are accessible, And one of the cornerstones of website accessibility is image alt text. And alt text is a short description that you provide for each image. And people who use screen readers will then be able to listen to that description. Or if for some reason your image can't load on the site, the description will be there in its place. Without alt text, images are essentially invisible to those users with a vision impairment. So Google likes accessible websites, but it also happens that alt text is another opportunity for keywords that may help your content be more findable, particularly in Google image search. We often forget about image search when we're talking about SEO. That being said, again, it's really important that you do not stuff arbitrary keywords here. Make sure the alt text actually describes the image. So for this image, I would avoid things like pit bull or pit bull licking and go for something richer and more descriptive, like a pit bull dog on leash, gently taking a treat from a person's hand. There's some keywords in there. I know I have dogs and I am currently working with a dog trainer. And one of the things in particular I was looking to get help with was leash work. So these are things that are going to register for users. And this is just a really good opportunity to incorporate. A fourth way to incorporate keywords is in link text. Again, like headers and alt text, good link text contributes to a good user experience, which in turn means users spend more time on your site, and Google likes that. The most important factors to remember when writing link text are they should be succinct, they should be clear about what the user will find when they click, and they should not be generic. So we have some examples here. Click here is always a bad link. It's bad for accessibility and it's not utilizing keywords at all. These other two options use keywords nicely. So we have tips for first-time dog fosters and read more about fostering for the first time. So using some keywords and being really clear, and people are going to want to click on that and then they're going to go to another page, and next thing you know, they're spending several minutes on your site, which is great. Okay, so we've talked about getting to know your users and placing keywords in key places. Let's move on to the number 3 way to optimize your content for search. And that is to develop a linking strategy. We just talked about writing good link text with keywords, but there's more to it than just the keywords. And the biggest recommendation I can make to you, especially if you're just starting out with SEO, is to focus internally. It's definitely a huge benefit to get another high-ranking website to link to your site, but making that happen is often pretty difficult. You have no control over what another organization does, but you do have control over your internal linking strategy. Here I have 3 common strategies. The first one on the left isn't really a strategy, or at least it shouldn't be. It's just kind of like the default setting of most websites. You have a home page, and then you have some other pages that you navigate to via the main menu. The second strategy has a little more thought put into it. There are some links from lower level pages to other lower level pages. But the third is the ideal strategy, and that is connecting bidirectionally and often. When you connect pages like this, it should always make sense, just like everything else. Don't do it arbitrarily. It probably doesn't make sense to, for example, to connect a page about fostering dogs to a page about calling animal control. But it would make sense to connect pages about fostering and volunteering and maybe even donating. These are all ways to get involved in animal welfare. So don't go crazy and add links just to add links. Definitely, they need to make sense. You can scale your linking strategy to fit your resources and capacity. These internal links can be as simple as contextual hyperlinks, like we see in this example on the left. This is something I mocked up using our ongoing example of dog rescues and dog shelters. You can do this on any website with a text block component. Or you can invest more time and money and design a custom solution. On the right, I have a screen capture from a design Pixo did for a department at the U of I. These are link cards that can be mixed and matched and added to various page types in order to highlight anything that is sort of deemed related. So you can go high or low, and they're both awesome options, and you should really just choose the option that you have the budget and time for. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. We talked about getting to know your users, placing keywords in key places, developing a linking strategy. And now let's move on to the fourth and final content optimization tactic: investing in dynamic content. When I refer to dynamic content, I mean content that is updated often. The Google algorithm favors websites that are updated frequently. If your content is mostly evergreen, you might consider starting a blog. But there is one caveat. If you don't have the capacity to do this, then don't. A lot of organizations have high hopes for their blog, but they don't have real resources for the commitment. And my recommendation there is just to always be realistic about what you can do today and do that thing. Don't try to, to overpromise. That said, if you are able to blog, there are many benefits, including that they create more index pages for Google to crawl. They offer an opportunity to target a broader range of keywords without resorting to keyword stuffing. So if you have some awesome keywords and you're thinking about how to incorporate them and they don't really make sense anywhere else, maybe brainstorm some topics to blog about. They give a reason for your established site visitors to keep coming back. Again, more time spent on your website is good for search rank and probably one of the most important things for search rank, honestly. They provide more opportunities to utilize your internal linking strategy, so you have more related content to add to your core pages and vice versa. There's more connections being made. And they provide more opportunities for external websites to link to yours. So I know that I said don't focus on that, but often blogs are an important part of thought leadership. If thought leadership is important to you and your organization, you should absolutely try to blog. And if you have the resources to commit to a blog and you're excited about all these opportunities that it affords, you want to make sure to refer back to your intent stages to start generating new topics. Consider any of those gaps in content that you highlighted in your research. You should have a really good source for these topics and keep yourself busy with all of those. If you already have a blog, you should make a plan to refresh. Yes, of course, if you have new ideas for new articles and you have the time and the wherewithal to execute on that, by all means, please do that. But you can also help your SEO by doing a much less intensive refresh. To Google, updating your pages looks like your content is dynamic. So you don't have to create new pages to have dynamic content. You can update what's existing. And this means going through your old articles and updating your sources, maybe adding or changing small bites of content to reflect the evolution of the topic. You can go in and update any links in the post that go to pages on your site. So if you have new content to connect to, that's great. That's a really good reason to update. And if you've done your keyword research, then you should see if there are any opportunities to incorporate some of those. The impact on your SEO is not going to be instant. Well, with any of this stuff, it doesn't happen instantly, but Google periodically crawls your website to account for any updates. And this is when it will take note of your dynamic content. And you can create a maintenance schedule for yourself. I highly recommend this to address one post a week or a month or whatever you can handle, because doing it over time is a really good idea. That makes your website appear more dynamic than it might actually be. And it's just more sustainable. Like, adding that, if you go and publish 20 blog posts on one day, you kind of waste, that dynamicism isn't going to be very long lasting, right? So make a schedule, do it over time, and do what you can. You should also take advantage of this refresh by promoting the blog post again. I know it can maybe feel self-conscious because you know that it's largely older content, but your audiences most likely aren't going to realize. So wow, we made it. That's 4 ways to optimize your content for SEO. I'm eager to hear if anyone has other approaches that have worked for them. Of course, I think we do have a little time for some questions.
Yeah, Amanda, there was one question in the chat. It says, for internal link in a product shop, adding recommendations of other related products, does that count as internal links?
Yeah. I mean, anytime you're connecting one page to another page, that's an internal link. And I think that's a really easy, I don't want to say easy about anything, but a really straightforward way to tackle your linking strategy. Is just thinking about things that are similar. And if you know your user and you know the user that wants product A probably would be interested in product B and C, that's excellent. And I think that that's a very valid approach.
All right. Well, it looks like that's all the questions we have right now, but we do have a few minutes left here. So if anyone has any more, please feel free to drop those in the chat. I also know it's a lot of information to take in at once and maybe, really absorb it and think of those questions. So Jenna did drop all of their emails in the chat. So if you think of something after the fact, please feel free to reach out too. Oh, we're getting some more, Jenna, so I'll let you handle those since you and Amanda kind of have that going. So go ahead.
Yeah, Amanda, do you want to read the chat or do you want me to read them out loud to you?
I see. Yeah, do you use
Okay.
Google Trends? Yeah, I see that. I personally don't use Google Trends, and this is the trend piece is another thing that you can get from a lot of these tools. And that's just not something I really mess with very much, but I'm sure it is valuable. There's so much you can do and so much you can dig into. And as a content strategist, I'm more focused on understanding the users and delivering the things that they need than anything else.
There's another one in there about linking to external resources.
Yeah, it doesn't really, so there's nothing bad about doing that, but it doesn't really provide the same, it doesn't provide a benefit in the same way that internal links to your site are the most important thing. So it's if you could get another site to link to you, that's awesome. And it's not bad. And the only thing I would say about external links is the same thing I would say to anyone, which is being really cautious and making sure that that page isn't going to turn into something that it shouldn't. Government sites are usually pretty safe for that sort of thing, so you're probably fine. But don't avoid it. Just make sure that that you're incorporating your own pages as much as possible.
All right. Well, we'll give it another minute here. I do want to reiterate in case anyone jumped on after the fact, you will get that recording and a copy of the presentation. So if you revisit the information and something comes to you, please reach out to the Pixo team. They are always happy to help, so don't hesitate doing that. And then in that follow-up email, I'm also going to include links to some of our other upcoming sessions, both with the Pixo team themselves and then some of our other community partners that we work with. We do have some sessions coming up in person, so if you'd like to join the SBDC in person, you can do that as well. As a reminder, our sessions are always open to everyone and offered at no cost, so please feel free to join us. All right, well, it looks like, oh, we got another one. Go ahead, guys.
Ooh, AI. How are you thinking about the role of AI and how people find information? People are seeing fewer search results. How can small businesses adapt? This is a hot topic.
People are seeing fewer search results. I'm not sure I understand that they're seeing fewer, that the search results are more biased now because of AI, or
if AI is prioritizing the bigger companies because of the crowdsourced information, I think that might be what he's getting at.
Got it. Yeah. And that's a really good, and similar to what I pointed out about PetSmart is it's also even without AI, that challenge is there because these big corporations have the benefit of just lots of time, people, and money to worry about SEO. So yeah, I think the keyword element could be really helpful to focus on because of like what I was saying, all the keywords sort of around, like you're not going to populate for these really broad search terms. Focusing on the niche and the more specific little things can be really helpful. And yeah, it's a problem. Even I think it's like a tough place to be even before AI. AI is complicating everything. We just had we just went to a conference and like half of the talks were about AI. So yeah.
A lot of jokes about AI right now too.
Yeah, AI is top of mind for everyone, and in a good and bad way. I don't know. It feels like, yeah, just like anything with technology, it's like I can see the good and I can see the bad.
Totally.
I will add to the individual who submitted that question is in the insurance field. So obviously a very broad, small,
Oh,
large,
yeah.
all of it. So
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know, like I think this is also where like really knowing your users, like how your audience is maybe different from the like I don't know State Farm or Geico audience. Like, not to I don't know very much about insurance specifically, but like again, really knowing your users and like what differentiates you from your competitors, and I think that's all. The research is even more important.
all right. Well, I'll start to wrap up here. If we get another one, we can obviously stop. But I do want to thank everyone for joining us today. Once again, I know it's a lot of information, so please feel free to soak that in. And then if you have any follow-up questions, reach out. Either the Pixo team or the SBDC, our director, Madeline, can also assist. And if she can't, she can make that connection with you for the Pixo team too. So thank you everyone for joining. And thank you, Amanda, Jenna, and Danielle for being here today.
Thanks, Jordan.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody, and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.